push the status on the apparatus, Puncho, cancel kings. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about are Christian men indulging in the passport bro movement. Um, this is such a layered topic, and I want to kind of just jump right into it. We got a cool video for you guys. Hang tight.
Back to the videos that I saw on TikTok
She's
of
kind of
women being
explaining the whole
upset about
passport
this
bro thing,
whole
just setting a little
movement of
stage for
passport
us.
bros, is that they're kind of saying like these women over there don't know better and they're being taken advantage of. But kind of like those things that you just said, the benefits to the women are very similar to, I mean, other than the third, very similar to the benefits that women have here when they're looking for a high value man, right? They're looking for a man that can support a family. And that, of course, includes finances and then somebody that they're attracted to.
Exactly.
So, I mean, just the fact that you're talking about reason two for Filipino women is that they actually find these Western men to be attractive. There is, something very genuine there.
Yes.
And that's what you can build that chemistry and then relationship off of.
What these women are upset with is having competition. Do better and passport bros will disappear.
This comment is actually a great example of how men really don't understand women's lived experiences. Now, Theo Thayer, whatever that is responding to
It's a good question.
Passport Bro
Are
video.
American women jealous about
let's see
passport
exactly
bros?
what Theo
Without
Theo
question.
Thayer has to say. No, you're not. It burns you. They go to other places to look for women, and no man comes here looking for you. People want to be wanted, and you're not. So and I kind of understand, he has only had his own experience as a male, and I'm guessing he's projecting he's had his experience as a male who's largely ignored and feels unwanted, invalidated, maybe even rejected, because the experience that women have, starting from puberty, unfortunately, grossly, is that they're noticed. No matter what they look like, no matter...
So she's making the argument that women have always been noticed, and they don't need to go to extremes to find significant others, irregardless of them being young or if they're old. There's never a shortage of men that are interested in women. And that same demand is what's driving men in general, maybe even Christian men, to go overseas and to look for significant others. So we kind of got to this point because there are so many men that I talk to, even in my personal circle, that are now going overseas and dating and looking for a significant other. Now, there are two broad categories of that, and there are Christian men and there are other men. A lot of the guys who are Christian are doing things the right way. They're trying to find love, and in many cases, some of their wives actually live in the States with them. Some guys are even trying to reconnect. The wife is is still in a foreign country, and the men are working or living in the United States. And in other cases, the men are living in the foreign country with the woman. So, and we know the guys who aren't Christian are doing every other thing, in these countries. Some things that we totally don't agree with. But that being the case, this passport bro label and this net is being thrown far and over all men that have the option or the ability to date overseas. And that brings up a question, Hanley, I want to throw towards you. Do you think that all men are kind of being thrown into this net of being, loser guys looking for prostitutes, guys doing this, guys doing that, cats and dogs sleeping together? Well, what are your thoughts on
Well, it could be viewed as that, depend on the perspective. Me personally, I highly encourage all men of all races, American men, to secure a passport and explore the world. And if you're looking for love, be open-minded to women in other countries. I've been successful by the grace of God. It wasn't that I was looking for a spouse abroad. I was looking for my wife here in the United States or anywhere I went.
Does that make you a passport bro, or are you something else?
I wouldn't call
And
myself a
you
passport
got a
bro.
bit of an echo. I'm not sure how you police that. Maybe you got to turn the speaker down a little bit. I don't know.
I wouldn't call myself a passport bro, but I wouldn't shy away from that title either, because what is a passport bro? It's an
And
American gentleman, typically, with a passport, the ability to travel to other places. A gentleman of leisure, if you will.
you
Would
think
I consider
you think
myself
you
a passport bro in that capacity? Absolutely. The negative connotation that has been put up on it, yeah,
he talking
no.
like he Sean Connery or something, a gentleman of leisure.
I'm just saying.
But when you
I used to hear men say, I don't date American women.
you've
And I
heard men say
understand
that,
this.
or you or
I've heard
you
men say that, and I didn't understand it. As an
yeah.
American man, I'm like, what does that even mean? You don't date American women.
Well, we're gonna
As an American
we're gonna
man,
dig into all that, but I really want to. We got a few different layers of this onion we're gonna cut open. But
sure.
as a Christian guy, I don't think I can be a passport bro, because the passport bros have become synonymous with sex tourism, working
Sure.
with women of the night, and
Sure.
using the passport, of course, as an option to travel and do things like that. But there is that component of exploitation that comes from the
Well,
women in these other countries.
whose definition? I mean, we got to go to ChatGPT or Google's definition of what a passport bro
Well,
is.
this is
I
this is
think
this is kind of their definition, but at the same time, the passport bros want to say that there is no true definition of what it is. That makes it even less clear and less kosher for me to claim that as a title as a Christian. If they don't even know what it is, but it includes all these things, and you guys correct me in the comments or whatever if I'm wrong, but this is from I've gathered in my research. They're not 100% sure what it is, but it does encompass the sex tourism. It does encompass, being a digital nomad and things like that, which is, do your thing over here, but that doesn't mean that's what I am. And I actually am married to a woman from a foreign country. So I get dumped into this broad category just like you are, Hanley. And it's like, oh, you're a passport bro because you found a wife from a foreign country, and you're living in a foreign country right now. That makes you possibly one of these guys who are one of the bad guys too. And that attribution is not fair for a lot of men that are doing the right thing and trying to find, a good, clean, decent woman.
Oh, it's good.
Well, like you said, I'm here to tell you that, from my personal testimony, you can find a good, clean woman in parts of the world where it might be perceived that that you can't find one. And finding a good woman anywhere on God's green earth is miraculous, whether you in
Well,
Detroit or in Uganda.
well,
So
that
God
goes to
bless
the
anybody
woman's
who can.
point. That goes to the woman's point earlier, where she's saying that only the losers, losers like myself and you, I guess, only the losers, Christian included, are the kind of men that need to go to these wild extremes to find a woman who's possibly uneducated, ignorant. Sorry, I
Well,
gotta.
you run the same risk. You run the same risk here in the United States. There's no difference.
Well, you can't tell that to her, because I think a lot of women, and that's the bad part about it. As a woman, she was putting on a halo about how women are, but she excluded that halo from women in foreign countries. Because these women over here are working. These women have not that kind of working, but these women have careers, they have jobs, they have education, they go to college, they're doing the same things. And to say that any woman in a second or third world nation is at a disadvantage and is being exploited by men is a very broad jump. And it also says a lot about who you are as a woman or guy and how you're judging all men, including Christian men, which kind of is the whole net that I was talking about earlier. I'm lumped into this category. Have you been lumped into that kind of a category where people assume you're not doing things the right way from a Christian perspective with your dating and marriage?
Well, I've learned to stop listening. my meeting with my wife is 100% divine, I believe. And
But have you had
all
that
of
criticism that
I'm
people have?
sure
Okay,
when you
that's the heart of it.
it's hard to pay attention to criticism when you're basking in God's good grace. You know what I mean? Criticize if you will. Of
I've met your wife, and you don't mind me disclosing where she's from.
course not.
I've met your wife. She's Colombian. She is such a beautiful woman, inside and out. And
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I really, and it's heartbreaking to hear that people are classifying your relationship, your marriage, in that kind of a way. And I know that a lot of other men are dealing with this. I'm not saying all the guys overseas are doing this the right way. There are a lot of dirt bags that are doing things the wrong way. I know some, but that doesn't mean that they're all that way. And that's the danger, especially from a woman that's just putting everybody under this net. And it's even more dangerous, I think, for a Christian woman to say something like that, because as a Christian woman, you can't say that men finding the best woman to marry isn't a part of your spiritual DNA. You look at situations with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Isaac was given his wife, or he had an arranged marriage with someone from a different nation, his actual a distant relative from another nation. The same thing with Jacob. Jacob's mother was like, "Hey, we're not going to be putting up with any more of these local women. You're going to have to go back to the old country and find a conservative, traditional woman to marry you, because your twin brother, who was Esau, he had two wives, actually, Esau, that were local women, and they were driving her absolutely crazy. So they went and found him a wife from another nation or from their home country. And we still hear a lot of Christian women that are on this bandwagon, and they got to be careful, because you could be blaspheming and denigrating our patriarchs of the faith by saying, oh, you guys who are going overseas and trying to find women are only looking for dumb, ignorant women. You're trying to find situations to exploit them, as if these women don't have agency. Even in the Bible, they had agency. They chose to be a part of these arranged marriages. The women did. And it's a very dangerous thing, I think, for Christian women to say. We shouldn't be surprised what, women that are, non-Christians say. So we shouldn't even worry about that. But I think I take it a little bit more personal when it's coming from our sisters. I'm blabbing here. What am I missing?
I mean, we gotta hold our Christian sisters accountable, because a lot of the times, and even in this moment, I got to give them grace, because we're all guilty of it. As human beings, we're guilty of being judgmental and being competitive. So we
Yeah.
we we, we want to look at any sort of competition and anything that causes us any impedance as a problem.
I'm looking at the comments here. Let me pull these comments up. One of the guys here says, he says in the comment, the replacing will continue until morale improves. Can I
Correct.
get,
I 100% agree with
could I
that.
make this bigger? I don't know. Here we go. He said the replacing will continue until morale improves.
We got another
Uh-oh.
amazing.
Wrong video. Let me pause
Experience
this
as a
now
male.
and go back down. Bear with me here,
Hey,
guys.
yeah, I, I, I also want to say that I met your wife. I know your wife. Truly an amazing person as well, respectfully. And she's from a Latin American country. Maybe we're onto something.
Brother, don't get me lynched out here. Okay, another comment says, if these women can't deal with the passport bros, quote unquote, they definitely are going to lose it when they are replaced by robots. They talk about Elon Musk sex bots from Austin Powers.
I hope
Y'all
it never gets to
fatigue
that.
button. Nobody, oh my goodness, this is harsh. Nobody cares what old women think. You simply do not count. 57 likes. That kind of brings me to a point, because I would like to believe that I'm a very responsible guy. People in my community really respect me, and they know I'm known for having sound judgment, and being a man of integrity. I'm not tooting my own horn, but that's what I hear in the streets. But ironically, I never heard anything of pause or concern about me being married to a foreigner from most of my male friends and family. it mostly came from females. And going back to that comment that we just read, it was mostly older women. And I kind of start piecing it together. Why is this happening? By older, I mean 35 and up. And I hate to use that term, but do you think that in some cases, women who are 35 and up have a bit of resentment because they may be getting older and they can't come to, Ukraine, they can't come to Nigeria and just scoop up a man who's in a third world country and take care of him like we could? A woman in the same situation? Is there a hint of jealousy there, you think?
Without question. I mean, it's just my humble opinion. But
Why is that? Why is there a jealousy? It's because I have my own theory, but I want to hear your opinion first.
modern American women cannot compete with old school traditional women. They can't do it, no matter which country. I'm talking about, and most guys, I'm 47 years young. Most guys my age, even a little bit younger, in that 35 and up range, that are looking for women in the 35 and up range, are looking for women that have traits like old school traditional women like their mothers, like their grandmothers, like their aunts,
You just a
that
slave.
nurture.
You just
A
want a
slave.
slave.
Uh,
What do you mean by that?
your definition of a slave is, if that to you means slavery, if you looked at your mother as a slave because she was married to your father and attentive to your father or attentive to her husband, and that doesn't ring a bell as to that's what men are looking for present day, some peace, a little peace. And if I can find that in Haiti, if I can find it in Uganda, if I can find it in the Philippines, if I can find it anywhere that I can find peace, because I've been looking for it in the United States, I haven't been able to find it.
Bro, you paint a very sad commentary for our sisters here, and you know I don't know what to say. Let's go back to the comments. Okay, the next one here says, "Wow, the jealousy and coping is off the charts." Next comment from Jimmy. So you don't want me, but you don't want me to be happy with a foreign lady. Okay.
That's
That's
it right
something
there.
that's something that really I've noticed too. It's like we're gonna kick you on the way out of the door and then be mad that you found something that you find here. Um,
Sure.
and again, I don't hear people talking crazy about me behind my back. I'm sure it may happen. Um, but I didn't have issues dating in the United States. But man, to say that the dating pool has a little bit of urine in it is a bit of an is a bit of an understatement. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. So it wasn't an issue trying to find people to date, but trying to find people that were of high quality was a bit of an issue. Finding
Absolutely.
people, and the thing that really hurt me a lot in relationships and made it difficult was I dated exclusively Christian women, but these Christian women were not really interested in a truly biblical marriage. You know, it was very clear that I should be a provider, protector, problem solver, prophet, and priest. The same thing that men have been doing for the last 3,000 years. But when we start talking about the roles of a Christian woman in the home, starting with what the Bible says with the dirty S word, submit, then you may as well throw a hand grenade into the room and just run, because there's going to be explosions. Christian women don't want to hear anything about submission. And I'm thinking the obligation on me to be a biblical man and all those things I mentioned before, the 5 P's we call them, there's no wiggle room in that. You can have a little bit of wiggle room if you're handsome and 6'10". But for the most part, there's no grace for us as men. But for some reason, there's tons of grace for a lot of women that I dated, and they had expectations of what they weren't going to do, or they redefined the Bible according to modern times, even though the Bible never did that for itself. Especially in a lot of the verses we see about submission from Peter, from Paul, women's role in the family. Women just aren't interested in hearing that kind of stuff. What am I missing here, bro?
It's self-serving.
What do you mean by
It's
that?
self-serving. If let me expound. Let me think on that more and expand on that thought.
Well, no worries, because a lot of this is very complicated, and I remember um, I remember dating people in the United States. You know, of course, dating for marriage, and I would always give and I don't want to make this a race thing, but I would always give black women the first right of refusal when it came to dating. Um, but after decades of going through this cycle, a lot of the issues were my own. But as I became more mature, I was definitely a serious candidate for being married. But the women I kept running into from all kind of Christian demographics, it was always the same thing I would run into. It was always a conditional femininity. You know, it was always an issue with the hierarchy of how the family should be run. Women, of course, they nowadays they want to share authority, but they don't want to share the accountability that comes with the authority. I found that to be very strange. And I'm sure there's women out there that do that or plan to do that when they get married, but that's just not what I encountered. A lot of women didn't have domestic skills. They didn't feel like they needed to even express that until they were married. So no cooking, no cleaning, certain other things that were withheld, not sexual, but other things were withheld until marriage. But all of my value had to be put there up front. I had to be still a provider, a protector, and a problem solver, a prophet and priest. I had to be everything a man is supposed to be that he's married while he was in a relationship and single. So I just didn't understand a lot of that. And I'm not saying you're not going to run into those same dichotomies with a woman from another country, because these are still women. But the blow was much softer, or the landing was much softer. The negotiations were a lot less charged, a lot less political, and a lot more biblical. You know, to get to where you guys are as a couple. What do you think, boss?
I mean, it takes a lot, like the the perception that's put on gentlemen that have a passport and explore love in other countries is unfair, because it's a similar dating pool no matter where you are. You're not going to magically find a Disney princess in another country. It's just like dating here in the US. You may have to kiss a couple of frogs, if you will. But
Yeah,
maybe the mentality of the woman is going to be different. For me, I can appreciate an old school woman here in the United States, and I can appreciate an old school woman overseas. It's the
yeah.
character of the person. It's not just where you're from.
You know, bro, this thing, like, there's two wake up calls I had. Maybe I was being red pilled about this. This happened very early in my life, being in the military, and I know my military guys can vouch for this. My first duty station, and even subsequent duty stations after that, running into my mentors, my supervisors, leadership. A lot of these guys had foreign wives, Filipinos, women from Turkey. Some of them were from European countries, Russians, and was no one would bat an eye at that. Some of these guys were trolls, in the military. They weren't the most attractive guys, but they would go to Korea, they would go to the Philippines, they would go to Europe, and they would find a wife, and they live happily ever after. So that's always the template that I had as a Christian military man. Oh, you have the option of finding someone from a different country to marry, and these were great women. I used to love hanging out with all the families, during events and family days and things like that. And they would send lumpia to the office, and we'd eat all these foreign dishes. But what I'm trying to say is this: it was a bit of a smack in the face once I'm prepared to marry, and I have that cultural lens as being a military vet, and being told, oh, it's not the environment you came from that was a healthy environment, married people. You're just a passport bro, and you're looking for a hoe. Like, whoa, this was my developmental years, seeing this for decades. These great guys who mentored me, got me through college, and taught me how to be a man and to be a leader. They're all losers, and and can't find women, and these guys are just a bunch of misogynist pigs. It's because they found. But see that we're taking all of this legacy data about dating and marriage from previous times, not just my experience with the military, but also with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And now we're just trying to lump it all into this little safe box and say they're a bunch of weirdo passport bros that are looking for prostitutes, and we don't care what you say. If you can't find an American woman, something's wrong with you, and blah 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 blah. You know.
Later.
And I know I'm droning on here, but that's kind of what I'm saying is like, how has the narrative changed from something so healthy and natural to now the women just hate it? Some guys are even on board dogging passport bros. The guys were doing wrong, but why am I being included in that? You know what I'm saying? Why are you being included? Where does it come from, bro?
It comes from the freedom of having options.
They have the freedom of options to dog us? Is that what
I
you're
mean,
saying?
it's your right as an American to say whatever you want about anybody else. But can you really judge anyone that has more options than you? And that's the bottom line. And that can easily become a method of manipulation. Well, you can label someone and try to demean them. You're a passport bro. Well, I have options.
Well,
And
you know,
depending on where you go, there are a ton of good women overseas being overlooked, being underappreciated in certain countries where the machismo is way through the roof. A modern American man is like a king to a woman that has a man who's a little bit more open thinking
it goes far.
and
It
isn't
does go
toxic
far.
and abusive emotionally. You know, so it's a ton of layers. For me, I mean, I don't consider myself a quote unquote passport bro. If someone points their finger and says, "Hey, he's a passport bro," if you must, I've traveled. By the grace of God, I met an amazing woman in another country. She said yes to date me. We got to know each other, and we've been happily married ever since.
That boy's good.
It's a testimony of God's grace and God's love, and I lived it, and I'm living it.
Well,
So it's possible.
you guys are firing on all cylinders. But one thing that I will say, why women respond that way, and even some men, I think it's the crab in the bucket mentality. You're getting out of this bucket. You're getting out of this paradigm. You need to come back in here. I think that a lot of
Exactly.
it is
Sadly,
the false sense of equality that we have in Western cultures, that men and women are the same, men and women are interchangeable. I think it's frustrating for a lot of women to be able to see a man who is 35 and older, old, I guess. I don't like that term for men, but a 35-year-old man or older, 45, whatever, to be able to go to a foreign country and start over, children and everything, as long as he has his head on straight. He's going to continue to have options. I think a lot of women, especially older women, going back to that comment, may be frustrated that they can't do the same thing. And that level of frustration is like, hey, I waited till my 30s to put off marriage. And these are the women talking. I waited into my 30s to pursue my career, put off marriage, use my 20s for fun. And now that I'm 33 and I've got my degree and I'm in my career, I have everything that I should have in life, but I don't have a husband. I need these guys who are 33 and up to date me and to marry me because they feel like the social contract has been broken from what they were told that they should be able to do from our feminist society. But men never signed that agreement. Remember, men never signed that agreement to go against their biological imperative to want women who are younger. Women also want men who are older. So there's nothing wrong with that. To want women who are younger, women who are attractive, who have the ability to have children. I'm not talking about anything weird with women that are underage, of course. But men are then shamed for that biological imperative, for their preferences. But women are still allowed to keep their preferences for what they want, even though they may be excluded. But if they exclude men, it's okay. It seems it's just very convenient and very on the nose how this thing happens. And even looking at biblically, like the Virgin Mary, every bit of 14 or 16 years old when she was married to Joseph, who probably was over 30 or 40 years old when they got married. And even the other examples in the Bible of marriages, there always was an age gap. But now all of a sudden, I think that a lot of women are frustrated that the men that they should be marrying in their 30s are looking at the 25-year-old, the 22-year-old version of them. Thoughts on that?
I mean, I can't disagree with you on that. It's it is what it is. We're gonna go for what we like and the path of least resistance. Unless you're attracted to like toxicity and that woman that's loud and rowdy, and I may have been in my past.
Hey, you
That's
like the
great fun.
ratchets, huh?
Yeah, well, I learned the hard way that the ratchets can be fun, but you're gonna have to pay a price.
Oh yeah, there's a cost for entry when it comes to that.
Absolutely. So as a seasoned gentleman, I'm looking for peace, 100%. When I met my wife, I told her the same thing. Like I was 46 when we met, and and she was 42,
Hmm. Okay.
and she understood. I was a mature man talking to a mature woman.
Well, for me, I'm not gonna lie. There's definitely an age gap with me and my wife. There's a big age gap, but she's an adult. She's a woman. She's not a girl.
100%.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I was talking to one of my mentees, hasn't dated or been in a relationship in almost a decade, and he says he's frustrated because he feels like he's kind of being, and I don't want to speak, paraphrase him wrong, but he feels like he's being herded to single mothers and older women. And if he kind of goes out of that paradigm, listen to this, bro, it's so sad. If he's pulled out of that paradigm or that box, he's being shamed by people in his community. I don't know if he meant Christian community or just in general, but he feels like, hey, if I don't date someone that's his age, 35 or older, he's going to catch some cultural backlash. And I'm like, man, where are we getting this craziness from, man? That is absolutely crazy.
It's a program. It's a program. It's a programming that's been embedded in us, and if you believe it, then you'll be controlled by the mob. I highly encourage him to date whoever he feels comfortable with, whatever age group he sees fit, as long as it's older than the age of 18. And let the
thing is,
feel
he can't
whatever
even
they
feel
want.
comfortable. He can't even feel comfortable just dating anybody because in certain circles that and not just him, a lot of guys are dealing with this. And guys kind of go two different routes, or maybe three. One route is they just stop dating, which is what the majority of men have been doing, especially from 18 to 35. A lot of men just kind of play, they try to make it work. And I have family members and friends that do this too. They're trying to find a woman who's 35 or 45 years old to date and marry. But they want kids. These guys don't even have children. And these women may have 2 or 3 kids already, and they don't want kids. So they kind of they're stuck. They can't date a 25-year-old because they'll be socially ridiculed. And I think
what I've dealt with personally, and just to go on to touch on the age thing. When I dated in my 40s, let's say I was 45, if I was talking to a woman in their 30s, 30 to 35, some of them would feel like I was too old for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've come across that before.
But you know what? I find
which is shocking to me, but it's like, hey.
Well, I think what's happened is our feminist culture, feminism, has told women, use your youth for fun and for achieving your goals. And that goal does not have to be marriage. As a matter of fact, first and second wave feminism, third and fourth wave feminism, depending on how you look at it, marriage should not be a part of those goals. As a matter of fact, marriage and children are holding women back, according to a lot of feminist philosophy. So they're being told that if you want to decide to get married, do it in your 30s when you've done everything you want to do.
Well, most feminists are not trying to get married either.
Well, until they want to. They're not trying to get married until they do. So they get into their mid till early 30s. They realize that their biological clock is ticking, and all that programming goes out the window as far as I can just wait and do this anytime when they're 21 years old. And then it starts hitting them, hey, I may not be able to have a child, or I may have a difficult time having a healthy child. I got to get a man and have a child. And if they're thinking with their head on straight, I got to get married. So a lot of women are going through that, and they don't know what's going on. And we got to really be sensitive with this topic, because they were told that there's going to be a man at the end of that rainbow with a promotion and an egalitarian relationship where you don't have to submit to him. He doesn't have to submit to you, but somehow he's still taking accountability for all the problems. They were told this was going to be the reality, and they were lied to. And these women are perpetually single, because a lot of 35-year-old guys aren't looking for a 35-year-old woman or an older woman, despite the shame. A lot of men would just rather be single and go into monk mode than to, fall to the social pressure of just dating someone that's older. And I don't want to hurt women by saying that, but we got to get the truth out to these ladies about what's really going on in men's heart. And to be honest, I don't really care what a lot of the women think. I just want the men to be prepared for this conversation and how to deal with it, because I really believe having this conversation with a lot of women is not an effective use of time. Not saying time as far as biological and children, but just trying to convince women about men having preferences and how they love and who they want to love. I don't think it's an effective use of time to do that with most women. So we got to get the guys understanding that they need to find someone who already thinks like this or is in that ballpark.
Absolutely. I can't disagree with you at all. And it's just a matter of knowing what, you're spot on. It's just a matter of knowing what you want, like, what do you want? For me, I could say through my personal experience, like, I know you mentioned going into monk mode, right? Sometimes going into monk mode is not a bad mode to be in, because that's the time that God can do some work on you, some serious work on you. And if
There can be
if
a
you
lot of
take your time,
frustration too. Lots of frustration.
absolutely frustration. You're trying to do the right thing. You're doing the work on yourself, and you're looking for things to happen. For me, I can say from my personal testimony, I manifested a lot of it. All the glory be to God. But
Manifested.
I
Ooh,
I
been
was saying
manifesting
out
over here.
loud. I was saying out loud, I'm ready for my wife. I'm ready for my wife. And I know it took a lot of people aback, but I knew what God put in my heart, and I knew the conversations that I had with God. So for me, as I look back on it, it was just getting me ready for my blessing. And in that way, when it came across my path, and I've been blessed I've been blessed. I've been lucky in love. I've been blessed with a few good women. I've been lucky in love, and I've been blessed with a few good women. And there were times when I needed to mature and I needed to grow. So I can say, like, and there's still more work to do. I can say, having seen the work that God has done in my life, it was preparing me for yet another opportunity. Thank God.
Well, you make a good point. Every man needs to go through this preparation process. And I don't like addressing the women directly a lot of times for what they should do, because I don't think that's an effective use of time. But I do think there is some wisdom in that. The older women, like the Bible says, should be teaching the younger women how to be good wives, how to be people who aren't in the streets. I'm just really paraphrasing the Bible. And the young women need to decide how they're going to prepare for their life. Do they want to pursue higher education, which can take them out of the game for a few years, unless they can walk and chew gum at the same time and go to school and get a husband? But a lot of cultures don't even think that way. A husband or a man is a distraction from school. What I'm trying to say is, the same way you had to prepare, I had to prepare, and we have more time as men. The younger women especially need to start figuring out the big parts of their life a lot faster than the men do. And they shouldn't eat this forbidden fruit of feminism that's going to tell them you're going to have more time. Just look at your aunties. Look at your mentors that are these rabid feminist ladies, and see where they are. Ironically, a lot of white feminists are married, but a lot of black women aren't. So you need to make up your mind. Do you want to go through the Russian roulette game of playing this game at 37 years old before you finally decide, like some men do, it's time for me to get married? See, a man can play that game, because women are typically okay, not always, but typically okay with dating an older man. But most men are not typically okay with dating an older woman or a woman their age. It's once you get past 35 or so, 33, whatever the case may be. Despite all the social shame, despite the shame you may throw on these men for doing that, you women, you want to have a preference. Men are also allowed to have a preference too, and it's not an effective tactic to shame these men for meeting their biological imperative, finding a woman of God, no matter where she is, and being able to provide and protect for her, despite her coming from first, second, or third world. And I think overall, as a Christian man, I would say that, again, finding the right woman for you is a part of our spiritual DNA. Look at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In addition to that, we need to understand that dating has gone global. The girl next door, who just had access to the guys in her high school, can now be talking to an investment banker living in New York, and she's in Kansas City somewhere, or Missouri, whatever. So women have a global option, but I think a lot of people have an issue with men exercising their new global dating options too. So men, do what's right. Don't let this stuff get you down. Don't let yourself be bogged down by the shame that's coming from a lot of feminist talking points that are frankly unbiblical. And you find a healthy relationship where you're equally yoked with a person of God, and don't be afraid to do that. As we start
Amen.
sunsetting, bro, what did I miss there?
Amen. I mean, well put. Go. I mean, if we're speaking to the young men out there, I know my identical twin boys. They're 19 years young. They just got their newly minted passports, and we went on a trip right to Honduras. Thank God. So they got a chance to see outside of the United States. They enjoyed it, and I encourage them not only to travel more, but in your travels, date as well. Because anyone, no matter who you are, whether you're in a third world country or you're native born of the United States, if you only stay in your neighborhood, if you only stay on your block, if you don't broaden your horizons, then you're only limited to as far as you're letting your mind expand. So anyone who looks at you and points their finger and says, we need to start normalizing the term passport cis as well. Why not encourage women to get their passports and travel and see more? Because the more you see,
It's
the
totally
more
different.
open-minded you become.
Yeah, travel with your husband. No, I'm just kidding. But
That's a good idea.
but the
Because
thing about it
a lot of
is we
people
have to be
put a
careful.
negative.
But we have to be careful with the other side of that conversation where we have this Stella has her groove back kind of mentality. Because I see so many women over here tricking. There are
That's a
more
fact.
women I see tricking, or
That's a
probably about
fact.
equal.
And you
we
know what?
don't-
If they're
hold
happy,
on,
I'm
hold on.
happy
Let
for
me,
them.
let me land this though. We don't want to give women the false hope that they're going to come to a second or third world country like your sons and possibly find someone that's going to be a husband to them. Women have to be able to let a lot go from their
Absolutely.
biological imperative, taking care of a man that's making $15,000 a year
Sure.
and just accepting him for who he is. How many women are going to be able to do that? So we have to really caveat all this stuff with reality. Travel, get that experience, but should you be doing it for love? You have to, like Jesus said in Luke chapter 13, or chapter 12, one of the two, he said you got to count the cost of what you're asking for. And can women count the cost of how much it's going to cost to take care of some broke man?
You know what? And that's a thing. That's a thing these days. Because back in the days, in order to have a woman in your life, you had to have some sort of resources, and you
Right.
kind of do these days too. I'm an
hasn't
old school
changed.
gentleman. If I meet an attractive woman, I'm going to take her out on a date. Can I take you out to dinner? Can I take you to a movie?
This is
We're
the lie that
programmed to do this.
this is the lie that feminism has sold us all, men and women, that women are going to be able to make more money, be more educated, and be more affluent and have all these financial options, but they still don't want to pay for men. They still don't want to pay for dates. They still don't want to take men out to dinner. They still don't want to pay all the major bills. So what's the point of all this stuff? So women are saying to themselves, let's have these careers, let's do these things, and I'll figure it out when I'm 33 and I'm in middle management by that time. Well, you still don't want to pay for a man anyway. So men are wising up to this, ladies, and they're getting to a point where they're saying, I can find a woman from another country that respects me and has tradition and sees me as a man and do that. And she can have her own career making, $15,000 or $12,000 a year. And I don't expect her to pour into me financially anyway. Or I can deal with a woman from America that's making $95,000 a year as an IT specialist, and she still doesn't want to contribute. And she has less issues culturally. So men are starting to put this math together, ladies.
Absolutely.
And where are you going to be with that? But appreciate having you guys here today. We're going to go ahead and sunset the show. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Great topic. Thank you so much, Hanley, for coming out. We'll catch you guys later.